Good morning and welcome back to the Homeschool Library. I want to apologize for any background noise you might be hearing in the video today. I'm having a much needed new roof put on the museum this week. Well, this week, last week, and possibly part of next week. And we're not quite ready to get back into the Little Green Schoolhouse just yet. So if it's too bad, I just won't post this video, but hopefully it won't be too much of a distraction. I did have some thoughts that I wanted to get out while they were still fresh in my mind today, because as we are doing some rearranging and setting up in the Little Green Schoolhouse back at home after some construction projects in there, especially as we kind of fix up the library part of it. I've been doing a lot of thinking about myself growing up as a reader, as a lover of books, and the conditions that got me to that point, and how we as homeschoolers want to make sure that, to the best of our ability, our kids are afforded the same atmosphere and the same opportunities that I had. And I had to go back a little bit into my childhood. I've really kind of been waxing nostalgic about this as we reorganize the homeschool library there at home, deciding what books are going to be in it and what books might not be in it just yet. Like everyone, we're space conscious, and we don't obviously have room for everything that we own, let alone what we want to have. So the choices that we make in our educational atmosphere are very crucial to what we want to be doing in the classroom there. Speaking for myself, I go back to the early 80s. I'm 45 now, which means I was born in 1980. And the early 80s were, the whole 80s really, and even in the early 90s, was a great time to be a reader. It really was. And I did a little bit of research going back, finding what all was going on at that time. Was it just me being nostalgic, or was the culture as a whole kind of geared towards that? And one thing that I was a little bit too young to remember at the time, even though I lived through the repercussions of it, might not be the best word, but I'm going to use it anyway. In 1983, President Ronald Reagan issued a statement as part of a larger speech where he made a call for businesses in the private sector to become a little more involved in the educational process of American youth. And it worked to some extent. That was 1983. In 1984, it was a very pivotal year for American literacy, and that is the year that Pizza Hut started their Book It program. Probably a lot of you might remember that, at least my American audience out there. The Book It program was fantastic. You got little goals in school set by your teacher, whether that means the number of books that you would set for yourself to read, or the number of paragraphs, even the kinds of books. They were individually tailored goals. And when you met those goals, you had a big button. It was kind of like even a holographic button, some of them were, and you'd get little stars that you could put on your button, and then when you got your button full, you could take that to your local Pizza Hut, which back then was a personal fine dining establishment, nothing like it is today. And you would be rewarded with your very own personal pan pizza. That was a fantastic program. Read books, win free pizza. What 1980s kid wouldn't love that? I mean, what kid wouldn't love that today, except for the fact that Pizza Hut today kind of sucks by comparison. It's nothing like it used to be. That was a reward. That was awesome. Especially how all of the goals that were set were tailored to you as an individual reader, your reading ability, your goals. It made reading a personal experience, tailored to you. Then in the late 80s, something that I remember much more vividly when it happened, late 80s through the early 90s, Walmart really got in on the whole business education thing. And that is, I've showed you these before, and I'll talk about them again on this channel because I'm such a huge fan of what these did for culture in general, for me specifically, and that was these books right here. This is a copy of Anne of Green Gables. You see here the Walmart 2 for $1 exclusive. These are put out by Aerie, which was an imprint of Tor Books, which puts out a lot of great genre fiction. This was an initiative by Aerie for Walmart specifically. And how these worked is you could go into Walmart and there would be just giant dump tables full of these 50-cent classics. And it was great for both entities. One, the publisher, these were all public domain. They didn't have to pay royalties rights for any of these classic books. The translations that they were using were public domain translations. So some of them may not have been the best translations, especially for 12, 13-year-old kids who are reading their first classics for the first time. But for the publisher, they had to put nothing into them, really. But then the Walmart deals that they had, they could sell so many of them at one time that they could make a profit, even though it was such a very small margin. Even selling these books at 50 cents, which even by, between 1987 and 1993, when these were coming out, even then, that was cheap. A bargain basement classic book at that time, like the Dover thrift editions, they were $1. So these coming out at that time for only 50 cents with some pretty great artwork. Really, I love the covers for these series. That was awesome. It was a win-win. The publisher was making money. Walmart was getting involved in the education atmosphere. You weren't just going in there for clothes hangers and motor oil. You could increase your children's literacy as well. Now, I had a ball going in there, rifling through those dump tables, finding ones that I didn't have. I found a few of them even as an adult, going through that I never saw in my local Walmart. Or if I did, I didn't have the 2 quarters to rub together in order to pick them all up. Now, my mom and dad bought a few of them for me as well. Most of them I bought myself because I could. That was fun for me. And I've said in videos before, I can't express to you how grown up and cultured I felt as a 12-year-old with my own bookshelf full of the classics. And this is just one example. I've showed you them before in videos in the past. Again, I probably won't stop talking about these because I really do love them that much. This is the atmosphere that turned me into a reader. I remember reading sometimes 2-3 books simultaneously. I'd have one next to my bed. I'd have one in the living room, maybe one in the kitchen, and wherever I was, I could read there. I remember getting in trouble because while I was supposed to be eating dinner, I had a book on my lap that I was trying to finish. That's the atmosphere I grew up in. And then something started to change. I don't know exactly what it was in the culture, and it continued through the 90s. The Read Across America, or America Reads program, which they're, I think, two different things. I think it was the America Reads program that was launched by President Bill Clinton in the late 90s. That was a thing. That's when all the big fun book posters were coming out. Usually saw them in libraries, sometimes elsewhere, but that was a fun initiative. I don't know what year it was that the Accelerated Reader program came out. A year which will live in infamy, I would say. By the time that my oldest daughter was in grade school, it was in full force. The Book It program with Pizza Hut, it still exists, but like Pizza Hut itself, it's a shadow of its former existence. The Accelerated Reader program, I think if that would have happened when I was in school, would have destroyed everything that the Book It program had built. And I say that because I saw it happen to my daughter. We had her in public school. And this is a child who, more than one year, when asked what she wanted for her birthday, what she wanted for Christmas, the list was 3 words: books, books, and more books. She loved to read. Everything, from Percy Jackson on down. That was her big thing when those were coming out. She loved to read. We read all the time, she and I. There was not a time that we were together that we weren't reading a book. Usually far beyond her reading level, but it was something that we enjoyed doing together. Me just reading out loud to her. And as she got better at reading, then, we'd change chapters. I'd read a chapter or two, then she'd take it and read a chapter or two. And that helped with the flow. But the Accelerated Reader program, if you're familiar with that, and I come down hard on this, I actually recently saw an interview with author Judy Blume of the Fudge books and those from 10, 11 years ago, where she was coming down hard on Accelerated Reader. Because where the Book It program, you got rewarded for a personal experience that you had reading your books. With Accelerated Reader, it's all done by computer. They look at the reading level that you're supposed to be at based on your year in school, and they break down all of these books by number of words in a sentence, how big the paragraphs are, how many chapters there are, and they tailor these are the books that you should be able to read by now, and you have to read this many and get all these points and then take the test to get those points, and then you can move on to the next level. And if you don't do that, then you get penalized. It not only does it take the personal experience out of reading, you don't get rewarded for reading, you get punished by having to read more. It's a terrible program. And by the time she was in high school, let alone by the time she graduated high school, she didn't want to read. The books that she loved sat on a shelf. She even gave some of them away because she didn't ever want to open a book for reading pleasure ever again. Because after high school, then's college, and you have to do all this reading for study and for education. And the idea of pleasure reading was out the window. And I felt for her. I truly, because I had the same experience. Even though I predated the accelerated reader program, even during my high school year, my college years, there was so much reading that I had to do. It was several years before I picked up a book and read it because I wanted to read it. And I enjoyed reading in high school and in college. Some of the funnest reading assignments that I ever had were in college. Was a history class that I remember very specifically. We had to read Machiavelli's The Prince and Thomas More's Utopia. And then we had to write an essay as a citizen of one of those societies, trying to convince that society why the other one was superior. If that makes sense. Like, you could be living in a world that was governed by Machiavellian principles, and you had to write an essay to convince your Machiavellian civilization why the ideas that Thomas More had would be better to live in. It was a very cool comparative reading assignment, as well as a writing assignment. I wish to high heaven I still had that essay, because I enjoyed that. But because of all that reading that I had to do, there was virtually zero reading that I just wanted to do. Even though I still had all of these that I had grown up loving and enjoying, not just this one, but countless more, I'd lost that love and feeling. But I remembered it. I remembered what it felt like to just sit and get lost in a world of escapism, or even a nonfiction book, something that I wanted to read because I wanted to learn something. Whether it be a biography, a story from history, or anything, just because I wanted that experience. I wish that I could give you some advice for how to get that back. But all I can say is I don't believe that it ever really goes away. You just have to remember what it felt like to fall in love with it again. Like a relationship with a person. You may, or a spouse even. You may be in love for years, and then you might grow apart a little bit. And sometimes you've got to just force yourself to remember, what do I love about this person? And focus on that. And I think you can find that again. And that's what I did with books. One day I was living on my own at the time, bachelor, and I think I got off of work early one morning, went home, just sat, and it was one of the rare occasions where I had nothing that I had to do. And I still had a few books on my shelf. I grabbed one of them. It was a Sunday afternoon, and I just sat in my chair and started reading. And I read that entire book, cover to cover, because the more that I got into it, I can tell you what it was too. It was a fantasy book by Terry Brooks, one of the Voyage of the Jules Chanera series. First one, second, I don't remember which book in there it was, but I read it. And I remembered as a kid, I liked Terry Brooks. These were fun. And it's the first time, I think, in my life that at least in my adult life, that I ever sat and read an entire book cover to cover based purely on the enjoyment of reading. And I think I went and got a pizza after that. Probably not a personal pan, but maybe something a little bit bigger. I doubt it was from pizza. I don't remember. But that connection, I don't think ever goes away. You can never destroy a reader entirely. You can just make them forget how much they enjoy reading. And if you want it back, you can get it. You really can. I hope that's encouraging for you. I hope that neither you nor anyone in your family, your children, struggles with this kind of thing. I'd be surprised if they don't at some point, really, just based on how the world is. But don't get discouraged, because the love of reading is a personal experience. And if you don't have it now, I think you're just waiting for the right book to give it to you, the right set of circumstances and experiences to give it to you. But you can find it. And once you find it, don't think that you can't lose it, but always assure yourself that it's never going to go away permanently. Not if you want it back. Not if you love reading. Which I'm assuming, if you're watching this video, if you've watched up till now, that you do. I think this video got a little longer than I had intended it to. I hope you've stuck with it to the end. I hope you found something maybe you remembered, something you remember loving about reading, something that spoke to you personally, like it's speaking to me. So I will stop here and get about my day. Hope you have a wonderful day. I hope you find a book that you want to read and enjoy reading it today. And we'll see you next time in the next video. Brad out. Bye.